Vikings had a secret weapon, a 12th defender of sorts. A retaining wall. Sometimes this 12th man laid out the opponent for a long time. Sometimes for a very long time. Alan Page, Carl Eller, Gary Larson were 3/4 of the defensive line, along with strong safety Carl Kosalki, who made that big hit on Greg Landry of the Lions, all made the 1970 Pro Bowl team. Alan Page's 7 recovered fumbles led the NFL, and his 10.5 sacks tied for the 10th most in the NFL. Carl Eller was the team leader in sacks with 13, which tied him for 5th best in the league. Jim Marshall chipped in with a respectable 6.5 sacks, while defensive tackle Gary Larson downed 6 enemy quarterbacks. That's a total of 36 sacks for an average of 9 apiece. That's a very strong number. Going into Week 9, the Vikings had 7 wins and only 1 loss, and had beaten the Lions 5 straight games. The Vikings had 6 sacks and 2 interceptions in this game. Defense was stingy, as they only gave up 59 net passing yards and 185 total net yards. Number 49, Dale Hackbart, was a big 6'3", 210-pound defensive back, and he made Earl McCullough pay. Vikings won the game 24-20. 7 of the Lions' points came on an 85-yard kickoff return. So, the defense really only gave up 13 points. In the 1970 season opener against the defending Super Bowl champion Chiefs, the Vikings manhandled them in their 27-10 win, giving up only 8 first downs and 218 total yards. In their October 26th matchup against the tough LA Rams, the Vikings totally stifled their offense by only allowing an even 100 yards of offense. The Vikings traveled to Shea Stadium. Joe Namath had a broken finger. So Al Woodall took the reins. This was also a matchup of future Hall of Fame head coaches, Weeb Ewbank and Minnesota's Bud Grant. The Vikes limited Al Woodall to only 74 yards passing, and they made their receivers pay the price. Along with runners like Emerson Boozer. Or in this case, quarterback Al Woodall. Vikings sacked Woodall 4 times. The Vikings were number 1 in giving up the fewest points per game, one of the lowest in modern history. Only 3 games did they give up more than 14 points, with a high of 20. And the Vikings defense was a turnover machine. Their 44 turnovers were tied for first in the NFL. And they parlayed 6 of those turnovers directly into touchdowns, and also returned a block punt for another touchdown. Detroit Lions fans were all ears when the Vikings came to town. Both teams were tied for first place, and the fans and the players were roaring. The Vikes were hitting hard right from the opening kickoff. Even if that meant a kick to the chest of a down ball carrier. Unable to run the ball effectively, Bill Munson passed and Bobby Bryant took the ball 39 yards to the promised land. The Lions went back to the run. Unfortunately, they didn't have very good results at all. They were only able to get 68 yards rushing all day on 28 carries. Bill Munson was forced to pass, and when his receivers weren't getting punished, he was getting picked off. Number 45, Ed Schrockman, returned this aerial 42 yards. Look who made the tackle. Roy Winston returned this one for 13 yards. Vikings defense was a complete tear. They harassed and belted Bill Munson mercilessly. Vikings danced out of Motown with a decisive victory on this day by thoroughly dominating and controlling the Lions' offensive line. Vikings had a tremendous pass defense. They only gave up 102 yards per game. Of course, that's number one in the NFL. The number two team was far behind at 135 yards, and the Vikings had 8 games in which they gave up less than 100 passing yards. They had games where they only gave up 32 and 34 yards. That's just simply phenomenal. Vikings' 28 interceptions were tied for second best in the NFL, and their secondary had some great ball hawks, as Ed Schrockman had 7 interceptions and Paul Krause 6. Purple People Eaters were a menace to opposing quarterbacks as their 49 sacks ranked third in the NFL. The Vikings only gave up 6 touchdown passes all year long. That's first in the NFL. The number two team was quite a bit behind with 10. Purple Gang were highly effective run stuffers, too. The Vikings defense only gave up 4 rushing touchdowns all year long. Are you kidding me? Again, that's number one in the NFL. The Vikings only gave up 97 yards rushing per game, which was fifth best in the NFL. And they also scored 6 defensive touchdowns and scored another one on a blocked punt return. So they scored a touchdown every other game. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like and subscribe buttons. As always, thank you for watching.